Hello friends, how are you today? Welcome to season-inspired astrology stories. We are looking at the December 3rd/4th, 2021 solar eclipse today. My previous video was part 1, and I talked about on that video the personal stories, the stories of the human family that were evident in the energies of the eclipse. And we talked about keynotes that each of us might find within ourselves, depending on where your personal aspects are in relationship to the chart. It will key in for some of those things for you. I know it's a different approach than looking at the houses, but a lot of people look at the houses. So I thought I would do it this way. I didn't even consider looking at the houses because this is the reason why. Because you have many aspects on your astrology chart, and each of us is going to have different sensitive points. And if I go through what the main stories are in the energies of the moment, it's my view that those will interact with your sensitive points on your chart specific to you. And listening to the video, you will be able to make that determination on your own, what it means for you. And hopefully, maybe even get some insight that what you're feeling is part of, a bigger pattern of what all of us go through at different times, or of what humanity is going through in the moment, if it's a broader theme. And so that you know that you're not alone, and so that you know that, are we all in this together? Yes, but we're all in it together differently. We're all unique, individual, living human beings with a living soul, and each of us with our own special soul purpose and soul mission, thanks to the Creator who creates us, who made us. So part 2 of this video is going to focus on, it's so exciting, it's going to focus on the eclipse here, the sun and the moon in Sagittarius, and the star that's right near them. And it's going to focus on Lilith. Oops, where is she? She is right there. Lilith and the star right next to her, which is Rigel. Exactly opposing Antares, which is conjunct the moon, and you'll see that on the next chart here, but it's at 10 between Vesta and the moon, is Antares. So Antares and Aldebaran make a Stargate at this eclipse. It's incredible because they're just like a very small number of minutes apart. And then I want to talk about the influences around that, because there were all these asteroids, and I'm going to show you that chart. Oh, that's Antarctica. That's coming up next. Okay, yeah, see, look at this. There were all these asteroids. There was Antares. There's this super wild asteroid. Exactly 1222, Tezcatlipoca was exact on the sun. I mean, it was incredible. The Egyptian goddess Selket was conjunct to the sun as well, and conjunct Mercury, which was conjunct to the sun, as was Nike, Victory. All of them were opposing Aldebaran and Lilith, and then Rigel. Here's the other star that was involved there. So I've got a great story about this, and then we'll get a little bit into Uranus, because Uranus is like, bam, the activator. It's so exciting of all of this. And then in part 3, what we're going to address is Antarctica. And I'm going to show you the chart from the point of view of where the energies came in Antarctica. And that's going to be exciting. That's going to be part 3, which is going to be a third video, or I'm going to append it onto this one, depending on how things go. But I'll put a note in the description that gives you a link to that once I'm all done. So the first thing I wanted to mention in talking about the different asteroids, what they do, in my view, is they bring a depth of the story, of the energies. And the other thing is that I have noticed that when an asteroid, when it's conjunct one of my sensitive points, I feel the energies. I think that this is something available to all of us. And I want to be careful and say that I don't think that this is about fate or predetermination at all. I'm very much about self-empowerment. What I feel like is that these are energies that are present in our environment. And then they make an offer to us that we can choose how to respond. And we can use that to our benefit, or sometimes, especially when we're unconscious about what's happening, we don't understand, we don't have a bigger picture. It can be confusing, so let's bring some light to these things. I talked about this on part 1, but Anteros, one of the Greek gods and twin to Eros, is it's the energy of, and they call them gods and goddesses. That was how the Greeks described their stories. They personified all the energies. Who knows if these were living beings at one time or not? So you can think of them as personifications of these human concepts, all right? So Anteros is a personification of a return to love, of lost love returning, of a renewal of love, of long loyalty of love. And it can also bring a feeling of loneliness if you had someone that has passed on, or you had a relationship that ended, or if you're at the point where you're ready for something new. It can help spark that, because depending on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something fast and fun, we're really talking about Eros, okay? But if you're looking for something, long-term, serious, if you're looking for loyalty in relationship, then that's about Anteros. And Anteros was exactly conjunct Neptune. So over the past week and a half, or 2 weeks, or going back to a week before Thanksgiving, as it was approaching Neptune, and now even as it's slightly moving off Neptune, you may have been going through these feelings. And I find that just becoming aware, bringing the light of consciousness that this is something that I might be experiencing, and finding is it within myself or not? Because it might not be relevant for me at the time. Or it might be something where I'm having a feeling and, oh my gosh, that's exactly it. I talked about this on my November 19th video, and I've talked about it on some of my Schumann Resonance videos. But we're in a place where we've really lost a lot of our stories, our cultural long-term stories in Western civilization. And part of it has been because of the movie industry shifting to these, crazy presentations of things that don't match. They don't want to tell the same story over and over, I guess. I don't really know. But, this is the thing, that throughout the generations, we tell these stories over and over, the stories of who we are, the children's fables, the fairy tales, the stories of the legends and myths of our heroes, the stories of the tragedies. These are things that inform our culture, what life is about. And here, in the United States, one of the things we're so great at is being open to the stories of other cultures, and learning from these as well. And so I really feel that we can bring a return, kind of like an Anteros approach, I guess, but a return to understanding how these stories that have been in our culture for hundreds of years or 1,000 of years, and we can even go back to the Egyptian stories and other cultures that create the rich fabric of humanity and what being a human is about. And in our modern world, we're missing some of this depth. And so we can understand that these are personifications of things that we and humans throughout the generations have gone through, have faced. Even the Bible and all the Bible stories. I've been looking at Bible stories now going, oh my gosh, I can't believe how relevant these stories are for today. I went to church from being a little kid for years. That's how I was raised. And now I'm looking at it with a fresh look going, oh my gosh, this is so relevant to what not only I'm going through, but groups of people broader people I know, what they're going through. So we can use the strength in the stories. They represent aspects of human character. They represent aspects of human life. They represent aspects of human home and society. And we can allow these ideas to strengthen us. Because when you're facing a choice, like, okay, am I going to go with sadness, or am I going to say no to taking that on, okay, when it's not yours? So the converse of that is then to fill yourself up with your own love for yourself, essentially. In our society, the positive role models, the strong role models, really, they are greatly diminished. And a part of that is because our stories have been really taken from us and then taken and changed in weird ways. What I'm saying is that if you're a mother and you're looking at your home, you can think about Ceres, the divine mother. You can think about Mary, the divine mother. Or if you want to improve your home and your home conditions to be a good support for the family, you can look to the energies of Vesta, who has the sacred flame at the hearth, and consider these things. And then look at, where is that in myself? How can I bring that forward? Because society all around us, a lot of media, invites us to bring forward all of the negative aspects of what a human being can be and do. It's in that position of suggesting turning away from God, from our connection with the divine, and honoring ourselves as living human beings and honoring the God within us, so that we treat ourselves with love, we treat ourselves with respect and honor. But to remember the strength of a good woman, the strength of a good man, the way that a woman can provide, right, for her kids, her husband. The same thing with a good man, how he provides and what he does for his family, and how he provides a protective home for innocence. That's what we talked about in the last video. Okay, now we're going to switch to talking a little bit bigger picture here, because we're going to look at the eclipse energies. And I'm going to dig into the stories here and present you with some information that you might not have heard on other videos, because I know everybody's talking about these eclipses. Okay, so you have the eclipse here in Sagittarius, which is very forward-looking, visionary, and you have it at 12 degrees. You have the sun and the moon at 12 degrees. Now you have this stellium here, and I just want to quickly look at the energies for it. You have Vesta at 9. Vesta is the sacred home, the sacred hearth, and the temple goddess who guards the sacred flame. You have Metis at 9, the wise counselor. You have Antares. Antares is an archangel star that represents Uriel, and it's compared in energy with Mars. But then within 2 degrees, we have the moon, the sun. At the exact degree of the sun, we have the asteroid Tezcatlipoca. And Tezcatlipoca is the opposite of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is also in this quote-unquote stellium right at 625. So it's 3 degrees from Vesta and Metis. So Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca are opposites. Then we have Mercury and Nike, victory. Okay, Mercury, communication. So how do I interpret this? Quetzalcoatl is creation, new creation. Quetzalcoatl is an amazing fiery energy. So that's what starts off these energies. I would suggest that these energies may mediate a bit the energy of Antares. There's a lot of warlike descriptions of Antares and its energies. But I would say that when you've got Quetzalcoatl, Vesta, Metis to one side, and you'll see the interpretation of this in a second. It's interesting, but I think that one of the reasons that I want to explain why I think that warlike energy is perceived in this star, okay, besides historic events that other astrologers would point to. But it's basically a double star, okay? So it's 2 stars, one bigger and one smaller, that rotate with each other. Okay, so they're kind of like in this like forever loop. It reminds me of the energy of Eros, actually, long-term love, very, very long-term and loyal. But when you have these two stars rotating around each other, you could also kind of see that as at a lower interpretation of the energies as competition. Because one's much bigger, you could see it as one bullying the other energy. And so I think that in denser times on Earth, the denser interpretations are what has worked. But now we're expanding our consciousness and we're coming into this great awakening. So let's take a look at what these energies are about from that perspective. So you have two stars rotating around each other, literally like for eons. So you have long-term love, long-term commitment. You have them rotating around each other. It's magnetic, but it's also balanced. I think that we can look at the energies, like instead of looking at them fighting each other, we could look at the fact that they have stayed together for eons. They're in an orbit of each other or a rotation with each other. So they've worked it out. It's like a in a way, it's like a balanced codependent relationship. I don't know if they're codependent relationships that work, but if we were to elevate that and see each side of the relationship in the fullness of itself together over the long term, we could also look at it that way. In a healed and healthy relationship, that would be the higher dimensional state of the image of those two stars together. Now, this is interesting because Tezcatlipoca it's very interesting. Okay, this is kind of like he's kind of like a cross between the devil and Cocopelli, the trickster. So what he does is he gives human beings the offer off the path, right, of their divine destiny, essentially, or their connected human life connected with God. He's kind of like the man that convinces Pinocchio to go with him to Treasure Island, right? Oh, hey, Pinocchio, come to Treasure Island. It'll be so fun. And then what happens at Treasure Island? All the boys turn into donkeys. So that's this energy here, okay, and worse. But when you decline the offer, how your life proceeds from that point is significantly different. And that goes along with the double star of Antares as well, and the higher or lower interpretation of those energies. What this implies is that this eclipse, that there's a meaningful choice point here for each of us on a personal level. And those personal choices will result in a meaningful choice point for the societies that we live in. And, oh, I forgot to mention that Selket is in the row here, the asteroid Selket. Now, this is incredible. Selket is also doubled. Selket right here, the asteroid, at 17 degrees between Mercury and Nike. Selket in Antares. Because Antares, the location of Antares in the sky, is in the breast of the scorpion. And so Selket was the scorpion goddess in Egypt. So you have Selket on either side of the sun. So the energy of the scorpion and the scorpion goddess is extremely emphasized here. Now, here's the interesting thing about Selket, and we'll talk more detail in a minute here. But pointedly, Selket protects from the evil snake, number one. And she's standing at either side of the key energy here at the sun. So because she protects from the evil snake, she moderates the temptation that Tezcatlipoca gives to humans to self-sabotage themselves by making poor choices. In addition, the scorpion goddess protects from poisonous stings. So what is going on right now among all of humanity? A poison, possibly, sting is being offered. Okay, a sting of some sort. Whatever the poison is, she transmutes and protects from poison, and she protects from the sting. She also protects from fluids that cause the body to stiffen. My mind has trouble grasping what these solutions could be in the physical world to what's happening right now. But what I would say is that if you combine this information with part 1 of this video where I explained how the manipulating strategy of the forces of darkness are at a disadvantage at the moment, that their power is weakened because of how the sun shone on Pluto, because of the position of Orestes and Eris relative to Machiavelli. If you go back and watch part 1, I go into explaining that aspect of how dark strategy right now is being moderated, in my view, by those forces. When you combine that with Salket on either side of the sun, I'd say that humanity is in a pretty good position relative to the great oppression that we face here by the forces of darkness through various human beings, expressing in the human world. I don't know what's going to happen, but I feel like this is incredible. It's an incredible positive. And there's a Stargate here between Antares at 10:03 and Aldebaran, and it's almost exact. So it's almost like we're being ushered towards success here. And I just really want to emphasize that to you guys, that the divine seems to have our back here in a most amazing way. There's another significant moderating factor here for warlike energies, or even for the energies of Tezcatlipoca, and that is that it is exactly on the sun, illuminating the path. And what's interesting is the shadow path is illuminated, i.e. the moon, as well as the solar path, the sun. The number of doubles of energy here is just stunning. This is all leading to this concept of balance. Earlier I talked about how prayer, meditation, and energy work are human technology that work when we have a pure connection with our own divinity, and we learn to develop that, discern it, and then act on it, and so on. So we have the divine support here. Between Salket and Tez is Mercury, and on the other side of her, in less than a degree, is Victory, Nike, the goddess Nike. So we can think about, what does that look like? It looks like victory through protection from the snake. Talking about it is how we get the protection as we proceed to the left here towards the sun. We get to the sun, our soul, right? We're humans embodying the soul. And then here we are, we get the offer. Now let's see what the overriding energy here is. And I'm going to look at the Sabian symbol here for both the sun and the moon and Antares. For Antares, the symbol is, in the left section of an archaic temple, a lamp burns in a container shaped like a human body. Now there's a possibly obvious lower interpretation of this here, but here's the higher interpretation. The lamp, the flame, is the embodied soul. Tez is about change through conflict. He tempts humans to self-destruction. What I would offer here is that the conflict is an inner conflict between aligning with our own soul, the sun, or not. And then the moon and the sun here at 12 degrees, so 13 Sagittarius is a Sabian symbol, a widow's past is brought to light. So there's personal themes here, but now we're going to get into the overriding theme. The karma of past actions as it affects opportunities presented by a new cycle. So this kind of relates. We were talking about the healing of victimhood. We were talking about embodying the divine feminine, the healed woman, embodying the divine masculine, the healed man. So part of that relates to how much have we worked on ourselves? How much have we really brought consciousness to our choices? Because that now in this critical time, and in every moment we can make a new choice, right? So in this critical time, it affects opportunities that are presented and how we choose. Do we choose alignment with the soul or not? And really, that's an individual choice. There's no right or wrong answer like en masse for everyone. It's personal. This is a personal choice. But the new day is darkened by unfinished business of many a yesterday. And this comes into play here when we start talking about new technologies, because the eclipse was in Antarctica. In my third section, I'm going to talk about new technologies in Antarctica and how that energy looks. All right, so you have opposing the eclipse up here in Gemini, another sign of communication. So this is communication being brought in again is very important. And Gemini is also a twin. So we have Aldebaran. Oh, I forgot to mention, Antares represents Archangel Uriel. Uriel is the archangel who guards the gate between heaven and earth. Do you see how all those themes play out here with the quality of that archangel? He guards the gate between heaven and earth. What does that mean? In these times, if we choose to align with our soul, we can embody heaven in the living human form. I'm not talking about a group ascension of people like la la. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about bringing those qualities to earth. Okay, like who's the greatest example of that? Like Jesus Christ did. He said, "This you will do and more." Well, it kind of looks like we're at that choice point. Are you gonna do this and more? Because we have the opportunity here. We have the opportunity now to embody the soul in much more expanded ways. Uriel is at the gate. And this is part of the energy of Antares here. I think that firmness, that Mars-like energy. Uriel brooks no impurity. Your heart has to be in the right place to pass through. And by that, I mean, this is personal, okay? You know what this is for you. So, and our intention, where we're at, matters. Bringing the consciousness to that. And that's what I mean by your heart has to be in the right place. Like your whole approach. And it's going to be very personal. Where the right place is not measurable. It's on it's not measurable like for the whole group, really. It's on an individual level of what that means. Aldebaran is the archangel star for Michael, Archangel Michael. And I know that astrologers don't usually look at aspects with stars, but here's the thing. It's actually talked about quite a bit that Aldebaran it's in opposition to Antares, and it's actually, so Antares is at 10:03, Aldebaran is at 10:05. It's within 2 minutes, maybe 6, 2 or 3 minutes, minutes. That's pretty amazing. Now, so Archangel Michael is backing us up here. Okay, on the other side of the wheel, he's backing us up. Archangel Michael leads the angels in battle against the forces of the fallen angel, okay? And so you again have the duality here in the story. He's just, he's the divine protector. And so we have him really literally at our backs. Now I want to show you here, there's a kite formation, and this is amazing. You have here Babylon at 12, you have Lilith at 15, and you have Kali at 16 here. Yeah, it makes a kite formation. I'm going to call it. So Lilith, okay? Lilith can be quite bitchy when she wants to be. I don't see her as a warrior like Eris, okay? She's not like that. But she's a force to be reckoned with. And we talked about the healing of Lilith in the last video, the November 19th eclipse. But Lilith is 2 degrees now from Rigel. And Rigel is, in the Orion system, Rigel is sort of like seen as a star of like military officers, military rank, government officials, lawyers, but like people who are ranked in their field. Now, I'm going to get esoteric and woo-woo here and say that Orion, in, let's say, the myths about the Orion system, is said to be the home of the reptilian energies. And those beings, okay, are extremely focused on hierarchy. And they now, oh my God, I'm not going to talk about them all negative. What's happening? I'm just teasing here because I want to explain something that's important here. In Star Trek, like how the Klingons have this concept of our honor, okay? There's a concept like that goes along with this. And it has to do with being in a hierarchy, being in the top of a hierarchy, and acting in alignment with social norms, okay, that carry respect, okay? And now this is conjunct Lilith. And if she's not happy about that, she is not going to be easy to get along with, okay? If she's not happy. But you could also see Lilith as the Dark Queen. You could even see her, in a way, you could even see her as like a reptilian type queen, okay? You could just see her that way. Yeah. I know that's weird. Okay, so they're opposing what? The energy here of Uriel at the gate of heaven and earth, and of the sun, the soul, the human soul, because this is the human solar system, okay, that we all live in. I'm going to call it ours, okay, in this story. And here is another duality, right? Does Archangel Michael stand between the gate, right? He stands at the Stargate here. Because in my reading about this, what I read was that when Antares and Aldebaran are exact in their conjunction, it's considered that a Stargate forms. Okay? That gives us the potential to elevate humanity. And it looks to me like Archangel Michael stands at the gate here between Rigel and Lilith and the entrance of the Stargate. Now, do these forces want to ascend or participate in ascension and all of that? That's not going to really be part of the human story here. But I'll say that they do have an ascended element. And now I'm using them for this part of the story, okay? Next time I talk about Lilith, which I did in the last video, I didn't talk about her in this way. But it's because of what else is going on and because she's conjunct Rigel right now. She was not conjunct Rigel last time. So I think this is really interesting. So we have an opportunity to free ourselves here of hierarchies that are old, ancient, and no longer in the service of the highest good of mankind, right? But we can value what they brought to our society, what these influences brought to society. The strength of humanity, the strength of the woman, the strength of the man, the physical strength, our smartness, our incredibly, keen intelligence, okay? Because this is a keen intelligence that's represented here at Orion. Extremely sharp, okay? Extremely clever. And you could say that these influences added those I don't know, like, I don't know if it was genetics, I don't know. They added that to humanity, okay, in their intermingling with us and intermixing with us, maybe, okay, because we do have a reptilian brain. So think about it that way, that I'm talking about the ancient human reptilian brain, okay? And now there's going to be an elevation of our brain, right? If we choose it, if we choose to go down that chute, and it's really not up or down, it's within, within, to connect with the soul. This is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Now let's look at what's going on here with this kite. Here you have Babylon, and you notice that these are all positive lines here. This is a sextile here to Kali and Saturn, okay? And then you have a sextile to Babylon. And then you have the trine to Lilith, which is influenced by Rigel and Aldebaran. This is incredible. And why do I say that? We talked about on the last video that Kali is the one that fights the demons and takes out the demon king. And now she's in positive relationship with Babylon, okay? Which represents, in a lot of ways, we can use Babylon as a representative for some of these ancient, old, and archaic structures that have continued through to the present day, or ways of being or acting, especially in the lower forces of life and the darkness of life, the heavy density, that no longer serve human life. They are not life-giving. But what Kali does, it looks to me, okay, is she breaks off. She breaks off the demonic from this, so that we take whatever was gained comes without that energy, because Kali's right there. And we build new structures in Aquarius. This is Aquarian energy here in the trine, and Babylon in Libra, another, with the scales, another two sides of something being balanced. So the side of Babylon, that whatever that benefit was, right? Maybe it was just the learning that we take with us of what happened, how low can you go, or whatever. I don't know what the learning was that humanity had. It could have just been coming through the darkness. I mean, right now it looks like just coming through that darkness, but it could have been much more, And it's like this. It's like, as an individual, if you have a past lifetime where you were XYZ person, let's say you were an incredible artist, but then you had, your art stolen or you're destroyed or something, and it caused a great tragedy for you, okay? And then you come into this lifetime and you have all these issues around, I want to do my art, but, this tragedy happened in the past where it was taken from me, and then I never saw it again, and it seemed like my whole life was for nothing, okay? As that artist you were in the past lifetime, as an example. Well, so in this lifetime, if you do the healing that we talked about in the first chapter of this video, and you elevate that and you burn off with Pluto, you burn off the trauma, and you take out the value. You take the value with you, which is the fact that you can do that art and you're passionate about it. It becomes a tool set for you as a human in this lifetime without the trauma, okay? Because you burned it off with Pluto. It's like a soul retrieval, but it's really an uncovering, right? It's an uncovering. Pluto helps burn off that which disallowed you from publishing your book or creating your art or speaking into your video or, whatever it happens to be. So in that same way, we take the tool set of what we've learned from human experience in Babylon and with its influence over a very long time on human society. It's been moderated by Kali, okay? And we're building now new structures. Aquarius and Kali, ones that are not demonically possessed. Whoa. It's intense. Now, what I want to show you here is that Saturn has been, here's Saturn, okay, it was at 8 during this eclipse, and here's Varuna at 6. Now, it's still there because this asteroid moves very slowly, And so I don't have it on this chart because I can only put so many asteroids here, but I put Varuna 6 degrees, now it's at 614 retrograde in Leo. Okay, so Leo, very individual. Aquarius, society, group consciousness, the human consciousness here is going to be building new structures that are where Kali's kicked out the demons, okay? And then right now it's opposing Varuna, and it's been opposing Varuna for a while. Now it's moving a little bit away from that opposition because it was at, now it's at 3 degrees. It was at 2 degrees 2 weeks ago. Varuna is a Hindu god, a god of the sea, of justice. He's considered to be the watcher of the West. And in addition, Varuna binds sinners, the forces of darkness, okay? So Varuna has a Kali-like aspect to him. He just does it differently. He binds them rather than going all hairy-carry on them, or what, just like Kali with her sword and blood everywhere, okay? But Varuna is much different. He more like wraps them in a blanket, okay, as far as I can see that, how I understand that, how that energy works. So another force on these new structures, okay? As they're being built, to actualize them, you actualize the opposing energy as well. The lower energies are removed. And there's something here about the Watcher of the West, because Uriel Antares is the Watcher of the West. So you see that energy, again, very prominent here in Varuna as well, opposing Saturn. This energy here of the Watcher of the West is in sextile to Saturn. So it's in a supportive position with Saturn. So the future looks good. Because this is a key point here, I wanted to look a little deeper into the meaning of this degree of Leo, 6 degrees, which evolves to 7 degrees, okay? So normally you would check the Sabian symbol for 7 degrees, and I learned how to do the Sabian symbols by studying the work of Laura Walker, who I haven't worked with or met. And then also my friend Andrea has spent a great deal of time explaining how those work and how to work with those. And I have a link to her website below. But I'm going to look at both the symbol of 6 Leo and 7 Leo so you can see how the energy is going to evolve here. Because right now, Varuna is just grinding through the 6th degree. I have added in my own line with the graphic program because I just have so many asteroids on here. 6 degrees of Leo, now this is fascinating, is a conservative, old-fashioned lady is confronted by a hippie girl. And it really speaks incredibly. It speaks to kind of the identity politics in a way that are going on right now. It speaks to the way that people are being given different labels and set against each other, because it's about fashion. It's about what's the in fashion right now, and that clashing ostensibly with a previous fashion, right? With the fashion of another generation. And in a way, it's like the current day where we have people who are given different labels, and that's the current fashion of the times, okay? Of the political times. So the idea here is that there's apparent clashes in fashions and people who represent those in society. But the meaning of this symbol is about the relativity, how those values, quote unquote, of advocating or a certain fashion or wearing a certain fashion, how that's transient. And it's not necessarily an enduring aspect of our society's social values. let's contrast that with where this degree is going to evolve to once it stations and then continues on through the zodiac. So the next degree where it evolves to is 7 degrees of Leo. This would be the usual interpretation, right? Right now it's going retrograde over what we just talked about. And incredibly, that's what's happening in our society. But the energy there is Varuna, who binds sinners and who is the god of justice and of the sea. Okay? So it's pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. And you could see this in a lower interpretation of the energy. But when we're talking about quote-unquote deities that represent aspects of the God force, I like to look at the higher meaning of that. And the higher meaning of that might be that before the group structures are built in Aquarius, there's the opposition, the tension with the need to bring justice for the individual that promotes the individual, okay, across individuals in society. And that binds sinners, that binds those who have been unjust or stepped out of that. And I'm not talking about arbitrary laws here, because when we're talking about energies represented by the God force, we're talking about enduring principles. So 7 degrees of Leo, the evolution here of this energy is the constellation of stars shine brightly in the night sky. And what this is about is basic and common spiritual values. It's about man's common humanity, across all the groups that make up humanity. We have basic core commonalities, and we have a basic core ability to connect with God, each of us across humanity, and the arbitrary labels of the fashions of the times. Each of us is a child of the Most High, God, the creator of the universe. That is our common humanity, and that is enduring, and something that we can all come together as individuals, that we can all claim in our own individual way. And it also points to enduring archetypes among humanity. I mean, the idea of archetypes goes all the way back to Plato, where he talked about archetypes being present in the non-physical that manifest into the physical. And so that's kind of what I was talking about earlier, about enduring human stories that talk to basic core ideas, core concepts, core divine principles, especially divine principles, because when you're talking about enduring values, you're always talking about core divine principles, and us having, as living human beings incarnated with a living divine soul, the ability that we as human beings have the ability to embody these divine principles. So here's the news that you probably don't want to hear about Varuna, which is that Varuna retrogrades through 2022. So it moves from 6 to 5 to 4. And the 5th degree of Leo is about natural formations that very slowly develop. So I think it's, that's going to feel like time is moving slow. And then the 4th degree of Leo is about ancient traditional power rituals, trophies from a hunting expedition. So basically it's going to take until September for Leo to go back to all the way to 4 degrees Leo. A formally dressed elderly man stands near trophies he brought back from a hunting expedition. And then by September, on September 12th of 2022, the day after September 11, that's when Varuna goes to 7 degrees. This cycle of energy is slow moving. That kind of makes sense that Varuna, if it's going to, bind sinners, related to developing new structures in the Aquarian age, if it has to grind back through things and review them as it's reviewing the individuals, right? It would be going all the way back through a big review of past participation in ancient rituals, maybe, I don't know. But then it grinds forward again. And actually, it's interesting because this kind of goes with Michael standing at the gate with Lilith, or Kali standing next to Saturn, or, Jupiter moderating the energy of Mars, or, all of these forces, causing the moderating the influence of Babylon in terms of so that the highest good transpires, and so that what is brought forth is what is in divine will to enter the new age. So interesting, isn't it? So September 2022. So Saturn is a slow-moving planet. It's an outer planet, and it's not quick-moving anyway. So we're at the very beginning of this age. We're at the very beginning of considering what these structures will be, and it looks like, at least in 2022, there's going to still be a big review process. I'm not sure if we'll know which way things are going. Maybe other parts of the chart will tell us as we go through the next moon cycles. The problem of creating for the proper structures in the Aquarian age, the solution is on the opposing end of the chart. And what we're told at this solar eclipse, the story of how the energy of Varuna unfolds at the individual level, Leo. So we as individuals, reconnecting and connecting with our divine principles, the opportunity that each of us has to do that and to find meaning in our lives, to live our individual soul paths in alignment with our highest good based on our choices and co-creation with the divinity that we are, okay, that created us. And to bind the sinners, which is something done by the God force. It's not done by human beings, okay? It's done, this is in alignment with divine will. It's not arbitrary binding of sinners. It's not arbitrary human laws that are only applied in to people or to certain circumstances, or that are arbitrary. That's not what this energy is. This energy is about the equal application of law. It's about justice, and it's about divine justice for each individual. Okay, for the individuals on earth, that we get to receive that. Whew. And it's something that's been missing. We didn't know the extent to which there was a rot in our society of our justice systems, of our law. And this has come so into view. And the solar eclipse brings further light to it. Now, Mars squares Jupiter here, and it's just incredible to me. Because you see here Mars is in sextile to Pluto and Venus. Again, it's incredible, because usually Mars would fire up Pluto. And possibly the war aspect of Venus. But here you have a constricting force upon Mars by the square with Jupiter. It's just incredible. Isn't that amazing? Wow. It's quite a story. There's one other thing here with Mars. The asteroid Bastet is 12 minutes, okay? It's conjunct within 12 minutes upon Mars. And I thought that was really interesting because Bastet is, I think it's a rock in Switzerland that's high up on a mountain or something. But anyway, it has an expansive view it has an incredible view right from that spot. And so what that tells me is that this gives Mars an expansive energy, right? A broader energy. I think that feels very good here with all of this. Jupiter moderates it in an expansive way. Does that help Mars see the bigger picture? Interesting. I don't know. Maybe it does. So the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was the goddess Selket. Antares is also known as the star, as being in the scorpion's breast, or the dragon's heart, according to the Chinese. I looked up the stone for the dragon's heart would be labradorite. And what's interesting is labradorite stimulates the throat chakra. And in the illnesses that everyone has been going through, sore throats have been a part of that illness. But also censorship and not being able to speak has been a big part of the issues. People haven't been able to tell the truth about health. They haven't been able to tell the truth about what life is like for them, okay? Because those avenues have been diminished. But as you know, new avenues are being created. And you see how communication is so important here, right? In this structure, in the sky. And you also have Mercury, right? Conjunct the sun. And Gemini, ruled by Mercury, opposing. So to fully unfold these energies, you elevate both sides of the chart. You bring in the opposing energy to get to wholeness. The other thing that the dragon's heart does is it tempers the negative, it calms the mind, and it increases intuition, third eye capabilities, intuition, in my view, our connection with the divine. The scorpion, okay, the heart of the scorpion, I want to talk about the scorpion spirit animal because that also reveals a little bit about the energies here on a personal level. And I'll link this below. The scorpion spirit animal is about using your inner strength and taking a leadership role in your life right now. And doing that is pretty awesome if you are being faced with these kinds of choices. And if you're standing at the gate of between heaven and earth or approaching it. And if you're wanting to enter, you take a leadership role yourself and make yourself into the kind of person that can step through that gate. It's about removing. Now, this is important, right? This is a scorpion energy. It goes so well with this. Removing from your life that which no longer serves you. Purging the clinging energy of those who are codependent on you. I mean, it's so perfect. It's about rising out of codependency into wholeness. Now, Selket, I mean, this is just so incredible how the energies play out on this chart. It's just how perfect it is. Because in Babylon had a scorpion goddess. And here's Babylon in sextile to the sun at exactly 12 degrees where the sun is, 1 minute off on the conjunction. So the scorpion goddess was Ishara, and she wielded, she had both an Ankh and what's called a was scepter, a rod of power and dominion. I'm going to show you that in a second. She healed poison stings. For example, you could say that in today's world, that energy might be needle that goes into the arm. So healing anything related to that if there is poison. She tightens the throat from the sting, okay, because there's a sting, but she causes the throat to breathe again. And when you breathe again, what happens? You can speak. Mercury and Gemini. She protects from Apep, the evil snake. She's a protector of the dead. And I want to say something about this here. she rules fluids that cause stiffening, and she gives protection related to them. I mean, this is so perfect for the current day. It's just amazing. You know what it is? It's divine perfection. As I was researching about Selket, this perception came to me. What came to me was that during Egyptian times, the perception of the non-physical world was different than it is today for human beings. Today, human beings don't really perceive, in general, we're not, in Western civilization, we're taught to not perceive the non-physical world. But what I got was looking at the energy of Selket was that in those days they could see into the non-physical world, like what we would today call the astral or the fourth dimension. And it's amazing because I believe that that's what they called the land of the dead. I believe that they could perceive beings. This is what came to me, researching it, and the divine guidance that came to me around this. They considered non-physical beings, like what we would call ghosts today. They called them dead because they were not in a body, but they could see them. And so they could also, with this, it's my view that with the was scepter, that Selket protected against snake energy, right? Which is both physical and non-physical. It can be a non-physical energy that tries to get into the human energy field. And she uses that long rod to protect. And at the top of the rod is a jackal type head. And it was interesting because when I was reading that one of the animals associated with the deities, and I believe it was this head, that Egyptologists couldn't identify the animal. They didn't know what it was. And what came to me was that the reason they couldn't identify it was because it was in the non-physical. It was not a representation of a living animal. It's a representation of a non-physical animal in the astral realms. And what I saw was that when the goddess trapped the snake with her scepter, that then the jackal set upon the snake and took it out, and that's how that worked. So here's the grand finale of the energies of the eclipse, and it's key in Uranus, which is in extremely uncomfortable Taurus. Uranian energy and Taurian energy, if you've ever known a Taurus, you will know that they do not like quick and rapid change, okay? So here it is. Here's a yad, the finger of God, okay? The energies of where God is pointing is Uranus in this chart. Now, as I said before, ignore the MC and the AC because that's specific to, well, really the West Coast because I used, San Francisco area. So the houses don't matter. So we're just looking at the finger of God here for Uranus and the finger of God pointed at Babylon. Incredible. Okay, so this is where the divine energy is pointing. And at Uranus, you have on the wings here Babylon and the entire eclipse, okay? Particularly Antares, the moon, and the sun, and Tez. So these are the factors that come into play and point at Uranus. And on this side, Babylon, our ancient history and all of the baggage, but also what we have created as a culture. And now we encounter rapid change. So this Stargate elevates us, if we choose that choice, because here's Tez tempting us. And Uranus brings this powerful, rapid change. Now, the meaning of the degree at 12 for the Sabian symbol for Taurus, because you go to the expansion of the energy. It's about... The name of it is a couple window shopping, okay? So it's about the soul incarnating into duality, okay? And in the human body, so into the energies of male and female, the duality of the sexes. So coming together, so at the basis of it, you have the core of human life, the family. But now these participants, right, the humans participants are looking outward at society. And what is society offering us? And we have the dramatic energies offered to us by the eclipse on one hand, and the dramatic energies of the ancient and archaic on the other hand. Okay, the old influences. It's pretty powerful and stunning. So there's a little trick here, and that is that we can look outside to what our culture appears to be offering us. And this is where Selket comes in, and the restraints upon the voice and communication at the moment. It's up to ourselves, to each one of us, to find our own voice in these energies. Because there are there are factors that are majorly attempting to distract us and get us to focus all of this incredible, all of this incredible power right here, okay? And they're wanting us, okay, as we look at what is the home that we're going to build, okay? And we've got the light of God within us, the light of the divine. And we're looking at new possibilities, okay? We're outside the home here. And of course, this is Red Riding Hood, an artistic representation of her. There's always the wolf that you have to be careful of. And the wolf dresses in sheep's clothing sometimes also. So it's really important with this energy of Uranus at this degree of Taurus to have discernment about what you're looking at outside in the world. And if it's trying to tempt you to go in a direction, Tez, that does not align with your heart, your soul, what you know is the right thing to do for you, have the courage to step forth and to make the choices that are in alignment with what you know is the right thing for you based on your own inner internal God-given guidance, because Tez is offering us illusions, okay? And all of the energies support us. If we have the courage to just say, I'm done with the fear, okay? I'm done with holding back. I am a living child of the Creator, and it's my right as a living soul in alignment with divine law to express as I will. Okay, now then you have Uranus in a yod pointing at Babylon with the Virgin Warrior. This is Pallas Athena. Here pointing at Babylon. So this to me is a guardian energy, okay? And in Pisces, so she can see the shadows, okay? She can see the shadows and use her sword to cut through the illusion. And this is what I was talking about using archetypes to bolster ourselves, to encourage ourselves in these choppy energies, that we have this sword of discernment within us. And it's very much like the sword of Archangel Michael here at Aldebaran, okay? And the sword of light that he offers us. And on the feminine side, that Pallas Athena offers us, to cut away the illusions and be able to see clearly no matter what is presented to you within your heart, within your soul, you know what is true. And this leads to shocking change and conversion towards the light because of the divine sword. Because this is where divine will is pointing. It's pointing to the shocking change in this yod. So it's going to happen to and in the presence of these old energies that still have had an influence in our society. So this is a very, very powerful message of the eclipse. And here's my suggestion, okay? The development of things related, we talked about Varuna, we talked about Saturn, moving slowly, but put your stake in the ground. Put your stake in the ground now. Make your choices, but just know that this requires an application of consistent effort, But keep that light strong within your heart, because so many of human beings, of humanity, are right along there with you. The human resonance. It's all about the vibe.